Jones puts it to the floor. Heads to the rim. Puts it up. No! No basket! Hoyas win! Hoyas win! Hoyas win! Hoyas win! Hoyas win! Hoyas win!
And the reason why Jason selected this is a 1974 song, and that's when you started calling Georgetown
That was
games.
your first year calling Georgetown games, correct, Rich?
This will be my 42nd. That was the first year. You know who the first game that Georgetown played that year?
Ooh.
Was Uppsala. And guess who the coach was? Richie Adebato. How about that?
Oh, okay. Richie Adebato, who coached in the NBA for a while, and he coached the Mystics,
Yes.
right?
Dallas Mavericks?
Yeah.
Coached the Mystics, coached the Mavericks.
Yeah.
I think I saw Richie like a few years ago. Is he kind of like in his older years? Is it later years? Has he gotten like kind of flashy? Like I think I saw him in a really flashy suit.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, it was crazy. I saw him over at Comcast.
He looks like a mobster. He's all dressed in the nines.
I'll be honest with you. He looked like a pimp.
Really?
What is this?
What's the change?
I don't know. Maybe he's always been that way. I just noticed it.
But Jason, you're doing this bit, and you went with the 1974 selection, but hopefully Rich will join us several times throughout the season, and we can ask him to choose a walk-up song. What would your walk-up song be?
You mean outside of Hoyas win, Hoyas win, Hoyas win?
Yes.
I'll have to think about that, and I'll come up with a good one.
All right. Well, that's the reason I came up with betting the Jets, not because the Skins are playing the Jets. I mean,
Has nothing to do with
people
it.
are texting me, and you're stupid. It's because in 1974, that was like the number 9 rated song on the Billboard Top 100. So I wanted to bring back some old memories for Rich.
I should tell
Rich. Go ahead.
I should tell Rich, Georgetown was the first team that I liked growing up because when I was like 12 or 13,
We were
that
all
was like
Patrick
the
Ewing
height,
guys.
That was the height of the Georgetown
I
Hoyas.
wasn't. I was definitely a Terp guy.
EB and I used to
guy.
play one-on-one basketball on the streets, and we would like pretend, I'm Patrick Ewing, I'm whoever you are, Sleepy Floyd.
You could have been Ralph Dalton. I owned you.
Well, my kids growing up, one would be Patrick Ewing, and my younger son, Evan, would be Bill Wennington. So I used to always kid Bill when I used to see him when he came with the Chicago Bulls. I'd say, Bill, look at my son, Evan. He said, yeah, he never won many times, did he? He said, no, in his career.
When you were doing the games in '74, you couldn't have imagined that Georgetown would become what they became.
No, when I first started selling the advertising back in the 74, 75
So you were doing the games and selling the ads.
and selling the advertising and writing the commercials.
Could you
I mean,
imagine if we were
I had a load.
Way to
And
quit.
in fact, when I first got the job, they said, Rich, congratulations, you're the voice of the Hoyas. Unfortunately, we don't have a radio station, don't have any advertising, so good luck. So I had to go out and sell it, and I took my tape recording, went out throughout Southeast Washington, D.C., and various parts of the city, and was able to get 4
I
or
bet you
5
remember.
sponsors.
Who were your first clients? I bet you remember.
I remember exactly. Hair Cuttery, there was Senate Dodge, there was Ducky's Quack Shack, and
Nice.
Mackey's Bent.
Were you
Ducky's
getting
Quack Shack.
were you getting free haircuts out of it and all that kind of
Well,
stuff?
I did get a free haircut.
Nice.
But the cutest thing was when Ducky's Quack Shack, when Georgetown went to postseason play, I went to see him and I said, would you mind sponsoring us for the postseason? He said, sure. Just change the Christmas commercial, would you? We kept it on the whole time.
That still happens nowadays here sometimes.
Yeah, it
We've
still
been
does.
known to play ads for a TV show, the premiere a week after the premiere happened.
What are
It
you going to do?
happens.
So was it your first radio job then?
Well,
No.
when I was at the University of Scranton, I did undergraduate play-by-play for the Royals.
Right.
My color commentator, my junior year, guess who that was? John A. Walsh, number 3 in ESPN now.
Wow.
So isn't that amazing, the
Right.
connection from way
Right.
back when?
Right. That's who we had dinner with, right? Didn't we have lunch with John Walsh?
I think we did.
We did. That's when they were wooing us 15 years ago, and we asked for double, and then they told us to F off.
He wasn't the albino.
Yes, he is. He's
oh,
the
yeah.
albino.
Yeah.
Well, that is him then.
He was actually a really nice guy.
And he did color, and he couldn't see 2 feet in front of him. But it was really, as an albino, you have a hard time seeing. But he was really a
I'm
classic.
doing color? Who knew?
And in fact,
That's a great bit.
if you know John A., I mean, he's just a brilliant guy.
Yeah.
So they picked him up from the Hartford airport once, and they were trying to take him to his home in Avon, Connecticut. And the cab driver said, Mr. Walsh, how did you get to your house? He said, I don't know. I don't drive. And that time they didn't have Google or anything else. But John's a great man.
So Rich Chvotkin joins us, 41 years broadcasting the Hoyas games, and they're going to be right here on 106.7 The Fan now.
Super
New
excited.
relationship. We're going to be out there for Hoya Hoops Madness, 7 o'clock on Friday. Before we talk about the current Georgetown team, I almost want you just to give us maybe just a little tidbit, a little story on some of the guys that we grew up with. So start with Patrick. What are your memories of Patrick?
Well, I'll tell you the first memory I had of Patrick. When they signed him, it was interesting. I was in the Hartford Hotel with Jimmy Marchione, and he knocked on my door and he said, the issue is decided. That means Ewing was signed. 3 days later, we played American University, and I talked to Gary Williams. I said, Gary, what do you think? He said, Rich, you go home, get out a calendar, tell your wife the next 4 marches, exit off, because you're going to go in the NCAA. True story.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
And that
So
was
that-
3 Final Fours,
that was 3
one
Final
national
Fours,
championship.
and one
And how
national
did you find Patrick? Because you remember he was ridiculed nationally. Then Patrick can't read this, all of that stuff. How did he handle that personally?
You know, I thought Patrick did a great job. You know, John did protect him, of course.
Sure.
And at that time, John did not want the freshman to be interviewed and
Right.
kind of protected Patrick. But, you know, Patrick really grew through that experience.
Did he have that rule in place before?
Yes, he did. Yes.
Patrick
That-
arrived?
That was the rule that John had. And all credit to John. I think he was one of the few coaches that kind of protected freshmen and
Right.
said, look, we want you to integrate into the school. We want you to integrate into the classroom and the basketball. And I think he did the right thing.
Right.
Rich, how did you handle, you know, being part of the university for so long? How did you handle kind of the outside reputation, the national reputation that Georgetown had as being, you know, kind of the street punks that, and UNLV I think kind of had that in the 90s as well. But not a lot of people, unless they were the inner city kids. It was a cultural thing. So, you know, the rich white kids didn't like Georgetown. It was rare that, you know, JP would like. It was all the black kids that liked him. How did you handle that kind of national perception of the team?
Well, you know, my role was strictly to do the play-by-play. I left all that other information up to the SIDs, and I was comfortable with my experience at Georgetown basketball. I didn't get involved in all those side things. I led up to the SID, and the SIDs really did a great job in getting that information out to the public and to the media. But again, for me personally, I just did strictly the games and didn't get involved in all that other
Did you
ancillary
think?
stuff.
See, I just because we grew up in Prince George's County, it was natural for me to be a Hoyas fan.
Yeah, it's right in your
so.
backyard. They
So I
played at
didn't feel
Capitol
like
Center.
I was like it was just like some white guys from PG County. I thought it was broader than that. Locally, didn't you think?
Well, it was.
maybe-
I
maybe
think
locally. Maybe
Georgetown
locally.
was a national power for years, and when Ewing came, obviously it took them over the top. But by playing out in PG County, they first started out there when Ewing came back in 81, 82,
Right.
and that was their home court till they went to
It
Verizon
was,
in
the
97.
style, it was the style of play, though. They played
Yes,
physically.
very
They
hard-nosed,
pressed. And when
tough
Graham
defense.
joined the team,
Right.
you know, there was kind of that perception that they were thuggish.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know what? I think that Coach Thompson embraced it to some extent because it
Oh, he
worked as kind of
absolutely did.
intimidation and fear.
I think it started before Graham got there.
So I want to go through it. Ewing, let's talk about Alonzo Mourning. What were your impressions of Alonzo?
He was such a warrior, for those 4 years, and he and Mutombo played 3 years together. I mean, that was a tremendous power. And then
Think
even
about
before
that.
then, you have to look at, well before Ewing, they had Sleepy Floyd, John Duran,
Sure.
and Craig Shelton years. They went to the Eastern Final, lost unfortunately to Iowa. And even before that, their first year in the NCAA with Derek Jackson, they unfortunately lost to Central Michigan on that undercut shot that they lost in overtime. So John's had teams since way back in 74, 75.
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate. In my 41 prior years, we've been to the NCAA or NIT 39 of the 41.
It's a good
No
run.
one's ever had that kind of record. You could look at UCLA, Kentucky, any school across the country. 39 of 41 years that I've been involved, they were in postseason.
What do you
play.
remember of Iverson's time there?
Oh, he was such a warrior.
A dynamo. Right?
Did you like the
he was-
answer?
Oh, yes. I mean, I love the answer. I mean, he was so quick. I remember one time we were playing in Lakeland, and the inbounds came to the guy, and Iris went, boo! He just wanted to make sure he scared the guy. But he was so quick, at 6 feet, could jump over everybody, quick on the defensive end, tough on-ball defense, get to the rim. I mean, he was just a
How
warrior.
was he to work with you? Like,
Very, very friendly.
respectful,
Yeah, always
et cetera?
respect. One thing you have to remember about Georgetown, they're a first-class organization. There's no nonsense on the plains. There's no nonsense anywhere. I mean, John and John III keep this a very, very well-run program. So they're always well-respected no matter where they travel. On the plains, on the buses, wherever we travel, Georgetown's a first-class operation. And that's always continued.
Take me back to 82 down in New Orleans in the national championship game against Carolina, and Jordan hits the shot, and then obviously Fred Brown throws it to Worthy. And what was your reaction calling the game and then afterwards?
It was just so unfortunate because you wonder how Freddie saw Worthy. I mean, where he was, because Worthy was really out of position.
Absolutely.
I mean, Worthy was like on the wing and say, what
He
is he
lost
doing
his
on that
man.
side? Yeah, and you wonder, was Freddie mixed up about the color of the uniforms or whatever?
I think he just
But
thought it was his guy for a
Could it very
second.
well be because he was on the
think he
wing.
thought it was his guy.
And how could what was Worthy doing there in the first place? And in fact, you say to James, how come you were there in Georgetown's back court? It's like, it would have been called for icing. So the bottom line is, it was just an unfortunate situation.
So
And,
weird that happened.
yeah, it was. And that game, pound for pound, with Ewing versus Jordan, and the amount of players that went to the NBA on those two Final Four teams was just incredible.
What was more crushing though, that or when Villanova went crazy and shot 70%?
I thought the North Carolina game was because of who was in that game was the most difficult for me at the time. And of course, Villanova was just heartbreaking because I thought Georgetown obviously was the better team.
Oh yeah.
You know, they played 3 times that year. 2 of the games went overtime.
Yep. Right.
And so, you know, those games went right down to the last couple seconds. And
We
unfortunately,
probably should have seen that coming.
Well,
You know, maybe I thought that it would at least be a super, super tight game in that sense.
sure. And Pinckney had played Ewing straight up for 4 years.
He was
and,
tough.
And he was always tough. And Villanova was good. They were well coached. There was no shot clock at the time. So in that game, you know, had there been a shot clock, things might have been different. But that was in '85, and then the shot clock, you know, came a couple years later. But the whole point is that they had such a great rivalry because of the Big East. And then, unfortunately, they lost that.
Didn't it come out
game.
later that Gary McLean, the point guard for Nova, was high
You
during
heard
that
all
game?
kinds of
stuff was
rumors.
going on, yeah.
You heard all kinds of stuff. And,
Yeah.
you know, again, I kind of push that stuff to the side and I just move on. You know, that's
Call it like you see
Villanova's
it.
problem. That's right.
By the way, it's like
See,
we're sitting with an encyclopedia
That's right.
on
Well,
Georgetown basketball.
let
It's
me
awesome.
tell you, it's been a great run to be involved with such a stellar program, and I'm so glad for you guys that you'll have an opportunity to witness some of these games because it's going to be great for the city and for the Big East, and it'll help Georgetown recruiting, not only the national in terms of Washington, but also the Baltimore market that you guys go into.
I hope to be witnessing it right there from the wood, Cakes. You know, I like to tweet a picture usually
course.
with
Yes.
the wood.
So
right
what
underneath
should we
my feet.
expect from this year's team? You got Smith Rivera back. You had a lot of freshmen playing last year.
Smith Rivera
That'll
back,
be
a lot of freshmen,
sophomores.
a couple of good sophomores, and Isaac Copeland as well as L.J. Peak. I think Trey Mourning's going to give him some minutes, Trey Campbell, so there'll be a lot of Treys on the floor. And then, of course, Marcus Derrickson, the freshman, I think is going to give them a lot of big minutes. He's 6'8". He can stretch the defense. He can play power inside. He's got a strong body. And Caleb Johnson, the 6'7" wing out of Virginia, I think is going to get some minutes too. So it's going to be a balanced team. I think John's going to go 10, 11 deep this year.
And they're playing a tough schedule.
Oh, my God. You know, after Radford, then you have the Terps. You know, and
You know what? And thank God they're playing them again.
yeah.
I think
Well,
it's
you know
great.
what?
That is
local
awesome.
Where do you
basketball.
stand on that, Rich?
It's good for the rivalry.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I'm glad they're playing. I think it's good for the city to have these two powers play. They're going to play again next year, and maybe they'll continue it. You know, Georgetown's back with Syracuse. They're back with Connecticut. Those rivalries were just tremendous, and people salivate over getting those games. And it's going to be a tough.
Now, the
game for
first Georgetown, Maryland game is at Comcast, correct?
First one at Comcast.
November
then-
17th.
And then
Yeah.
next year it'll be at Verizon?
Verizon, correct.
Okay.
Right.
And then what happens after that? We play it by ear? Is that how it is?
Well, I
Or-
think then they have to just negotiate. But these first two, obviously with the Gavitt game being the first one with ESPN, then the second game Georgetown will have probably on Fox. And then they'll have to negotiate what's going to happen down the road.
Right.
But the schedule's very difficult. You know, after that game with Maryland, then they go to New York for the 2K Classic.
Oh, that Wisconsin
And they have
game.
Wisconsin and the winner of VCU or Duke. And then they have Connecticut down the road.
Oh, it's relentless.
Yeah, December the 5th.
Hey, you got to get toughened up for March.
no.
And of course,
rest
you
for the
listen
word.
to it all right here on the Fan. So, Rich, what should we expect on Friday? We're not actually sure what we're doing.
Yeah,
I think
what
we're
are
going to
we
maybe
doing?
introduce dunk
Well, you know-
contest. Like, we're there.
You know, midnight.
What are you doing? Are you
Well-
going to be dunking?
I will
Get
be
a
standing
trampoline
there.
out there for you,
Yes,
Rich.
I can do that. But
Yeah.
if I can get a few Hoyas wins in there, that's what we're all looking for. It should be a fun night, and usually they pack the place. They have a lot of good entertainment, and it's a way to showcase the new kids too as well.
Can't
And,
we
you know,
just kind of just be cheerleaders? Can't
Yeah,
we just
you
kind
can-
of
you can
hang
do
in
that.
there?
I think
Yeah,
that's going to be our major role.
Yeah, right.
just
Don't
be
we have
cheerleaders.
like a PGC DJ, right? He can handle all the
I think
heavy
so.
lifting. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
like
it's at
that. We're gonna hang
McDonough
out with
Arena.
Rich. That's what I want to
McDonough
do.
Arena.
Get
We're
some free
hosting
shoes.
it. Doors open at 7. It's free. Get your first look at the Georgetown Hoop Squad. You got the dunk contest. You got Jordan Brand T-shirts that you can win.
Nice.
Hoya Hoops Magic, and you're going to hear him go with the signature call. When was the first time that people noticed the Hoyas win,
I think
Hoyas
the
win?
Vanderbilt game, I did 17 of them.
Wow.
And then I think for West Virginia was 21. But I'll tell you, Tony Kornheiser, the first time I started doing this, he said, his wife said to him, "Is his microphone stuck?" I said, "No, when you get into the emotion of a game, okay, so
Right.
you get a little bit carried away. But how about Russ Hodges when the Giants win the pennant? The Giants
Yeah.
win the pennant. Remember
Right,
that?
right,
Yeah.
right.
No one ever said he got too carried away.
How many
a little
times
bit
did he
before
say
my
it?
time.
Yeah, well, it's,
Oh, you've
but
heard
that's-
the clip.
Sure, of course.
clip,
You heard
of
the
course.
clip many times, absolutely. But I just found out a signature Hoyas win, and it's worked. So
Go
hopefully
with
I'll
it.
continue to use it. Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's my Twitter field. So it's all part of the package.
Perfect. Well, we're super excited. It's great to finally meet you in
It
person.
is.
Well, I listen to you all the time.
Look at
on
that,
the way to work.
Case!
I hit that 106.7. and
Very
right in.
good.
Yeah. So
Rich
so
Chvotkin, P1. We like it.
keep up
That's
the
good.
great work, gentlemen. And again, a station that has the Wizards, that has the Caps, that has the Nationals, and Georgetown basketball. You got a fine field there.
Right?
There you go.
Right?
Rich
Absolutely.
Chvotkin,
Thank you,
thank
Rich.
you very much for joining us.
Jones puts it to the floor. Heads to the rim. Puts it up. No basket. Hoyas win. Hoyas win. Hoyas win. Hoyas win. Hoyas win. Hoyas win. Hoyas win.